Beloved Madridistas, welcome back to Madrid. Welcome back to the channel. Okay, let me give you guys my thoughts on the match last night, the 0-5 against Kairat in Kazakhstan. Look, obviously, we're not going to draw any major conclusions either for the good or the bad. I mean, the difference in quality between these two teams is just so significant that, we're not going to draw any conclusions from a sporting standpoint, but I think psychologically, I think this was really therapeutic in a way. We wanted to get the taste out of our mouths from that, horrific performance at the Metropolitano. I think, last night, I think was very helpful just mentally to get ourselves sort of stabilized. But again, from a sporting standpoint, not that much to talk about. Look, apparently the stadium was, I was watching it on TV here, they were saying that the stadium was full 3 hours before the starting whistle last night, and it's amazing. You have to understand, when Real Madrid goes anywhere, it literally is the biggest match ever for whoever you're playing. So the level of attention that Real Madrid gets when Real Madrid travels around the world is unbelievable, and you can see that in the energy level of your rivals. Everywhere you go, you know that the first 15 minutes they're going to be chewing your ankles off. That's just the way it is. But as the minutes went by, the difference in quality became crystal clear. But anyway, let me give you guys my thoughts on the lineup, the match, players, etc. Thanks for joining me. Let's get started. Madridistas, welcome back. Okay, let me give you guys my thoughts on the match yesterday. As I mentioned, the level of kind of excitement you could tell was just enormous in the stadium yesterday. But okay, let's talk about the lineup now. With Xabi Alonso, there's always some element of surprise. Sometimes it's massive, sometimes it's minor, but there's always something a little bit surprising in his lineups. Yesterday, he came out with Courtois. It wasn't terribly surprising, although there were a couple of things I think worth mentioning. So Xabi Alonso came out with Courtois in goal, Fran on the left, Asensio as right back. In the middle of defense, he had Alaba and Huijsen, pretty much the only option we had. In the midfield, we had Ceballos, Tchouaméni, and Arda Güler, who had a fabulous night. And then up front, we had Vini on the left, Kylian in the middle, and Mastantuono on the right. Now, it's kind of interesting. I mean, if you sort of zoom out a little bit and you think, wow, Xabi Alonso is going to start a match with Jude Bellingham, Fede Valverde, Álvaro Carreras, and Rodrigo Goes all on the bench. It's a little bit surprising. I mean, these are all players that you could make a case could be regular starters. So it's a little bit surprising from that standpoint. I have to say I found it, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, so please let me know in the comment section. I thought it was kind of interesting that you started Jude in the Wanda Metropolitano after having not played for weeks, where his physical fitness, I don't know, you start him at the Wanda from the first minute in a very, very difficult stadium, away from home after weeks not playing. But then in this match, he starts on the bench, which I don't know, somehow feels a little bit counterintuitive to me. I think it would have been maybe more logical to start Jude on the bench in the previous match at the Wanda Metropolitano, maybe give him the last 30 minutes and then start him in this match. But Xabi chose to do things in reverse, so a little bit counterintuitive, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. Okay, in terms of the match itself, look, the first half, as I mentioned, wherever Real Madrid goes, it's the game of the century. It's like the biggest deal. And of course, that's evident. And that the first 15 minutes of every away match, the home team is going to play with an incredible level of intensity. This is, standard operating procedure everywhere we go. But as the minutes went by, the difference in quality in the two teams just got sort of magnified and just became crystal clear. So I think we started the match, we were kind of slow, sloppy, very sloppy with the ball, a little bit slow, not pressing, not running much. We looked like we were still a bit, jet lagged from the flight. But like I say, as the minutes went by, we started to sort of take over with longer possessions, etc. The first really good chance came in the 13th minute. Vini had a really good one-on-one situation. After that, Arda Güler, almost immediately after that, had a very good chance as well. Another one in the 20th minute. We started to create chances with relative ease. The first goal came in the 23rd minute, and this was the penalty awarded to Mastantuono, who, very intelligently read a sort of a bad pass. He continued his defensive run, sort of anticipating that that the ball could go astray. It's exactly what happened. He gets to the ball first. The goalkeeper can't stop the momentum and makes contact. So that's the penalty. Kylian converts it, and that's 0-1. Now, after the 0-1, things just continued to get easier. I think Real Madrid got a little bit looser, a little bit more comfortable. By the way, I have to mention that Arda, at this point, really started to become quite noticeable. Arda was completely dominant, I think, in the middle of the pitch. Last night was an absolute clinic. I think Arda would have put on an exhibition last night that was amazing. All of our play went through him. He was the beginning of every transition, but participated in a lot of the finishing in the final third. I think he had an absolutely fantastic match. By the end of the sort of 20s, sort of 26th, 27th minute, it really started to feel like a training match. This started to feel very, very comfortable. And we finished the first half with just a series of chances, almost back to back to back. Mastantuono, Arda Güler, Kylian, plenty of chances. And we went into halftime thinking, that the scoreline, I think, didn't really reflect what we were seeing on the pitch. Like I say, it was really starting to look like a very comfortable match. In the second half, we could have scored almost right away. The second half started with a really beautiful combination play between Kylian and Vini. The 0-2 came in the 51st minute. And this was, how often does Thibaut Courtois get an assist? Well, he got one here in the 51st minute. This was just a really long ball by Courtois. I don't know if he did this on purpose. It's hard to tell, but the ball turned out to go to exactly the right place, and Kylian, using his speed, gets behind the defender and, of course, finishes just absolutely beautifully with a wonderful little flick. After the 0-2, it really did start to feel like a training match. It was just, we had a very aggressive Mastantuono, constantly creating danger on the right. Arda Güler was just absolutely wonderful in the middle of the pitch, distributing play. Kylian looked lethal every time he touched the ball. Even Ceballos, I think, had a really good match yesterday, moving the ball very well. Now, in the 66th minute, we had the potential penalty, the play with Ceballos, that was reviewed by VAR, and the penalty was reversed, which I think is, this is sort of the way things should work. And we're so used to football in Spain where the refs are not only bad, they're, clearly corrupt. But this is the way the VAR should work. You call a penalty, you're not 100% sure, the VAR booth tells you to come and check it, and puts you in a position to reverse the decision if it wasn't the right one. So that decision was reversed, I think rightfully so. There was very little contact by Ceballos. And then we had the first changes in the match in the 69th minute. Rodrigo and Brahim came on, Vini and Mastantuono came off. And then in the 75th minute, we had just the 0-3, which was a really, really spectacular play. This was sort of very quick, one-touch passing, the kind of collective play that I really love to see. Just one touch, very quick, every player very aware of where everyone else is. Just beautiful passing, very quick one touch. A little flick by Arda Güler and a wonderful strike by Kylian, getting him his hat trick. Really just a wonderful team goal. Okay, in the 79th minute, we had more changes. Arda, Tchouaméni, and Mbappe came off, gave way to Jude, Camavinga, and Gonzalo. The 0-4 came in the 82nd minute, a really excellent play by Rodrigo. And by the way, we'll talk about him in a minute. I actually think Rodrigo, if I were Xabi Alonso, I would start him in the next match over Vini, but we can discuss that further. But a wonderful play by Rodrigo in the 82nd minute, and a header by Camavinga. That was the 0-4. And then in the final minutes of the match, when you really thought, there was really nothing left to play for, Ibrahim put in the 0-5. He, again, contributed, I think, with some pretty positive minutes as well. But look, like I say, there isn't, that much to read from a sporting standpoint. The difference in quality is just enormous between these two teams. But I think that psychologically it does help. Look, the defeat against Atletico was very, very tough. And we were able to identify a lot of very clear problems that we have. This is a team that continues to struggle with aerial balls, struggles a lot with set pieces. Our defensive transition isn't always as quick and effective as it should be. We're still a team that is very, very vulnerable, and we're working on those issues. But I think we can't. It was important to play a match like last night to kind of cleanse our palate and regroup a little bit, because look, we have to be on it. First of all, last night could have been 0-8, honestly. It could have been a much bigger scoreline. But also, look, in every season, even in some of the most successful seasons Real Madrid has had, we have had games that were just terrible and we, lost resoundingly. And, this does happen. And I think it's important to use that as a way of improving and identifying weaknesses. But I think it's also dangerous to get overly pessimistic and kind of wallow in it too much. Yes, this was a very bad performance against Atletico de Madrid, but we still have a phenomenal squad coming off 6 victories in a row prior to that. We've now won 7 of the last 8 matches. We have an incredible amount of talent, a very young squad. We're playing much better football than we did last year. And I think we still have a lot of really good possibilities of winning things this year. So I think we have to we have to be a little bit measured in our critique as well. I know part of the Madridista culture is that we are extremely demanding. We're very intolerant of failure. All of this is true, but it's important to put things in perspective, and I think to calm down a little bit. I think we have a very promising squad, and I'm still optimistic about the year. Now, so from a sporting standpoint, I wouldn't read too much into last night. I think more, it was a lift in morale, very desperately needed, I think. Now, I do want to mention the Rodrigo thing again. I honestly, we'll talk about players now, but I think that, after seeing what I saw last night, I really do think that Vini is just so inconsistent, and we all love him, we all support him, and we all wish him the best and want to see the best from him. But we have to admit he's just so inconsistent. He just isn't combining. He isn't gelling as well as he should. For example, Arda and Kylian, you can tell they're gelling really, really well. Mastantuono, you can see him gelling, really well with the midfield as well. But with Vini, he just feels a little bit disconnected from the rest of the group. His plays seem very individualistic. His finishing and decision making in the final third is just really, really poor. And I think Rodrigo has spent a lot of time on the bench, and he looked fresher last night. And I honestly, if I were Xavi, I really do think I would start Rodrigo in the next match over Vini. But that might be controversial for some of you, and I'd love to hear what you think. So let me know in the comment section. Okay, in terms of players, we can do this quickly. Look, Courtois, from 1 to 10, I'd give him maybe a 7. I thought he had a couple of really, really good saves. Slipped on a couple of occasions. I think the turf was a bit wet, so it was a bit scary on a couple of occasions. But I think he had a solid performance, was there when we needed him, as always. Okay, Fran, I think Fran had a sort of okay match. I'd probably give him a 6, something like that. I think defended well. He was pretty active. Didn't participate as much in attack as I would have expected, or certainly as much as you would have seen from Carreras. But I think in terms of his defensive contribution, I think Fran played reasonably well. Probably give him a 6 or something like that. Okay, Alaba, I'd probably give Alaba a 6 as well. I think the big story, I think he played an okay match. Not too many sort of glaring mistakes or anything like that. I think the big news is that he was able to fly 8 hours, halfway around the world and get off a plane and play 90 minutes. I think that's the big story. And the fact that he was able to, physically finish the match in good condition, I think is really, really good news, because we're going to have to lean on Alaba in the next few matches. But I think he did okay. He defended reasonably well and physically looked okay. Okay, Huijsen, I thought Huijsen was really good. I think he had a really good match. Look, this is a player that we have seen him make his first mistakes in the last sort of 2-3 matches. He is a very young player, but he's an excellent center back. Yesterday, I think he was really solid in the air, especially, which was one of our weaknesses in the Metropolitano. But he had some really good runs up the middle of the pitch. This is something that I think is very, very effective. When the center backs can't find a natural outlet, sometimes you can surprise your opponent by just carrying the ball up the middle as a center back. Sergio Ramos used to do it. The great center backs do it, and Huijsen likes to do it from time to time as well. I thought he had a few wonderful sort of runs up the middle, and again, he's always looking for that kind of deep, low pass into Kylian and Vini into their runs. So I think Huijsen, I think he's a phenomenal center back. I think had a really good game. Okay, Asensio, I would say was sort of so-so in the right back position. You can tell this is not his natural position. You can tell his his positioning, he kind of feels a little bit uncomfortable. Sometimes I thought he was a bit too far in the middle. I'm like, what are you doing? I think it just kind of naturally tends to drift to the middle almost instinctively. So I don't know. He doesn't look comfortable to me in that right back position. I think he played okay, but he did slip up on a couple of occasions. He got caught out on a couple of occasions, let players get behind him. But, I think he was sort of so-so. I wouldn't give him more than a 5, I don't think. Okay, Tchouaméni was actually not as good. He's coming off a streak of really, really good matches. I don't know how many in a row, but last night I think he was a bit sluggish. I found him a bit slow. I found him a little bit sloppy with the ball. There were a few kind of ball losses and stray passes that were uncharacteristic, because I think Tchouaméni is having a really, really good season. But I think last night he was pretty average. I'd give him maybe a 5. Okay, Ceballos was very, very good now in this match. Okay, now Ceballos is a player that you don't always know what you're going to get. I mean, sometimes he makes a really, really good contribution, and some matches he distinctly does not. Last night, I think he played very, very well, especially in our sort of transition coming out of the back. His ball distribution was good. He didn't hold things up. I thought he connected pretty well with Arda and the rest of the players. He was quite present defensively. I think did a good job as well. I think Ceballos had a really, really good match. The issue we have with Ceballos is that he's very inconsistent. So he I don't think has the consistent quality that you need to be a regular starter for Real Madrid. But I think, as a sort of, coming off the bench, I do think he's a valuable player, and I think last night had a really good performance. Okay, Arda Güler I thought was exceptional. I think last night it was an absolute clinic. It was an exhibition in every sense, in every aspect of play. Spinning to the left, spinning to the right, protecting the ball, looking for runs, moving the ball quickly. When he receives the ball, he knows immediately where the ball needs to go. This is one of those players that just is just very, very, and his football IQ is very, very high, and his technique is exquisite. He's combining really, really well with Kylian. That's a fantastic association, and we're seeing it match after match. These two players play very, very well together. Arda is becoming an absolutely critical part of this squad, and I think last night showed us that when you play him in the interior, not on the wing, but when you play Arda Güler in the middle of the pitch, he's going to do so much for you. I thought that was, I'd give him a 9 out of 10. He was phenomenal. Okay, Vini, the other side of that coin, I thought Vini was quite poor. He was inconsistent. He was just, I don't know if this is a matter of concentration, but it's just his decision making, whether to pass or shoot, and the timing of these decisions is a little bit baffling to me from time to time. I find that a lot of really good situations go wasted because Vini makes the wrong decision in the last minute. I don't think he's combining particularly well with Kylian. He does sometimes, and when they do it, it's really an amazing thing to see because they're both very talented players. But it's just not regular enough. It's just I don't see that connection with Kylian as frequently as we should. You see the association of Kylian with Arda a lot more than you do kind of Vini Kylian. They also seem a little bit uncomfortable passing to each other. Like it seems a little bit forced. Sometimes Vini no, you take it. No, you take it. It reminds me of when Kylian first arrived in Madrid. And everybody was trying to be too damn polite. It's like, guys, stop fucking around, just play. Play instinctively, naturally, don't overthink things. But I think that Vini sometimes overthinks things and kind of makes the wrong pass. I thought he had a very inconsistent night, and it's just very frustrating. And like I say, in the next match, I would certainly start Rodrigo ahead of Vini. Kylian I thought was outstanding. I think this is probably the best form I've ever seen Kylian. Been following him for years. This Kylian is as good as any Kylian we've seen in the past. He's absolutely lethal. He is just brutally quick. His finishing is just incredible. Right now, he's just unstoppable, and he's only 26 years old. I mean, we've got so much amazing football ahead of us with this phenomenal player. I think right now he's probably the best player in the world, certainly in the best form of any player in the world. I think Kylian was fantastic last night. Mastantuono, I have to give him a lot of credit for his energy and his insistence. He's very aggressive, likes to take people on, likes to make things happen. He's very aggressive that way, and I think I'd give him probably a 7 or something like that. I think he had a good match. It just always seems with Mastantuono that he initiates really great things, and then it's that last pass, that last dribble, the last shot that isn't quite. There were a couple of situations yesterday where it could have been like the goal of the year. I mean, really amazing plays, but just not quite finishing them. But believe me, when Mastantuono starts finishing some of these plays, we're going to see some amazing goals because technically he's a wonderful player, great skill, great dribbling, has an amazing shot, a wonderful left foot. And I think when these, pretty soon some of these are going to start to work. And they're going to be pretty spectacular. I think Mastantuono had a pretty good game. Okay, the subs. I'm not going to mention the subs that much because, it wasn't that big a deal. Nobody really, the only thing I will mention is that Rodrigo looked very fresh to me. He had a lot of spark in his play. He looked hungry, aggressive. His dribbling is really, I don't know. I think Rodrigo looks fresher to me, and I think that for the next match, like I say, I'd rather see Rodrigo start on the left over Vini. But you can tell me what you think about that. Okay, listen. The next match is against Villarreal here at the Bernabeu. I will be there, of course. And I'll record the clip of the anthem, which I love sharing with you guys because I get goosebumps every time I hear it. So I love sharing that with you guys. So I will do that this weekend against Villarreal. But thank you for joining me as always. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I love all of you. And as always and forever, Ala Madrid.